आज भी अंतर्ध्वनियां मर्यादा की कपाती हैं सरयू के पवित्र जल को, तीरती है आस्था वैदिक मंत्रों सी, पूजती है सुहागिने मत गजेंद्र का स्थान, चढ़ाती हैं फूल फल सिंदूर घी और कौड़ियाँ, मांगती है मन्नतें शाश्वत रहे प्रकृति पुरुष, रहे अक्षुण्ण ग्रहपत्य अग्नि, आदर्श हो राम अधिष्ठात्री हो सीता, आने न पाए कोई कलुष युगों युगों तक अयोध्या कथा में. These beautiful lines about Ayodhya were written by Yatindra Mishra in 1997. Beautifully describe the cultural significance about Ram and his beautiful city Ayodhya. I, Shweta, as co-author and creative editor of Bachelor'S Wife and Other Stories, welcome you all on the inauguration and launch of this beautiful work about Ram, a book based on the life and values of the most interesting and silent creature and characters of Ramayana. Please join me in congratulating Ashok, the author of this wonderful book. We also have Mrs. Anuradha Goyal, the guest for this evening with us. She is a well-known author, travel enthusiast, and has deep interest in Indic knowledge. May I welcome you both on the stage. And it is revered as one of the most invincible muhurt in the entire year. As the sun moves Uttarayan, all good things begin. Therefore, in the Yuddha Kand in Ramayana, also Agastya Muni had asked Sri Ram to initiate the warfare with the worship of Surya Narayan, where he says, Ram Ram Mahabaho Shununguiham Sanatanam Yena Sarva Narin Vatsa Samare Vijayeshyase. He further says, Pujasvena Mekagro Deva Devam Jagatpatim Etatri Gunitam Japatva Yuddheshu Vijayeshyasi. To begin the event formally, may I request Anuradha ji and Ashok to please light the lamp. Wasn't easy, but probably that's how universe wanted it. I remember in 2013 and 14, a friend of mine called me to tell that he has cracked the secret of Sita Haran in Ramayana. And I asked, what was it? And what did you discover? He told me that he had read a bestseller in which it is mentioned that Ravan aggravated Sita because she was his daughter. I was shocked, surprised, appalled, hurt, and all at the same time. The audacity that someone took in the name of creative expression baffled me. Years later, in the last quarter of 2021, when Ashok narrated Chink in the Armor, the story that he had written independently, we thought it is time to narrate Ramayana from a more human perspective, showcasing the inner turmoil of the characters. Within a few months, both of us lost our parents. Ashok, his mom, and I lost my father. It was the very pain and the sense of loss which guided us to feel the story more closely. For example, I now know how Rama must have felt being absent in the last moments of his father. How it must have felt to leave his mother with the younger siblings. During the creation of this book, I learnt perseverance, patience, faith, and the sense of duty. While growing up, I have always had observed my Shiv Bhakt father and an unwavering faith in Lord Ram. This book taught me why Ram was so dear to Bhagwan Shiv. And like this, there are many moments the book saw, like restoration of Sri Rama temple in Ayodhya. It travelled with me to Guptar Ghat in Ayodhya, and so to Mahakumbh Mela in Prayagraj. It has seen the lows and highs of both our lives. On this note, I would invite Ashok first. Felicitate ma'am. I now would want Omisha to give this momentum to Ashok.
First of all, thank you, ma'am, for making it. And I always followed you on Instagram and YouTube. A very big inspiration for us. And thanks for making time today. And I expect a lot of your wisdom to guide us as we go forward from today on. Okay.
We are all like Hanumans. When Sri Ram is being spoken about, you have to be there.
Absolutely. I'm audible, right?
Yes.
No, for the recording it will be better.
So I therefore wrote this, this day that I don't want to make a separate script. So I wrote this in the book in the beginning itself. Okay, so don't mind me leaning on the book again to express what I feel. And this book would not have shaped without Lord Shiva. Believe me or not, a day came, July 13, 2013, when I actually saw him. Okay, that is a story for another day. And from there onwards, he has guided me to explore myself. And this book is part of an exploration of myself, more than anything else. I'll put it that way. So when you say Shivoham, you have to search the Shiva in you. So everybody has, the divine in ourselves. And I think we need to find the time and space among our busy lives to look at that. So, in a sense, my literary journey, if I may call that, is this is one of the milestones in that. And this book is about, in a sense, it reflects me and Shweta, both of us, a lot. And I always have felt that a journey like this, when you walk long, they say walk alone. But I believe that you always have a yin and yang, a Shiva Shakti, a night and day. So Shweta read one of my earlier works, again fiction, and then we were trying something together then in 2013-14. That is when we felt that we have something common in together. And we didn't know that it would be a creative pursuit. Okay, that's how we came together. I will go to our story sometime later. But coming to the context of this book reflects our journey together a lot more than anything else. And Ram guided us through the journey. This book, I dedicate this book to my mom, who passed away when I was writing this book. I wrote only 3/4 of this book. Some stories weren't, especially 2 stories, which I believe are my better stories in terms of my writing. Came much after that, when Shweta inspired me to write more to complete the book. Okay, so this book started as a set of stories I wrote when I was waiting on my mom as she was winding up her journey on this earth. Okay, so there's a lot of pain when I wrote some of the stories. It was written as a time when when you're sitting in the ICU outside and you can't do anything. Then you have to do something. That's how some of these stories. I wrote 2 books at the same time. One of which is just gone into editing. It's a set of stories about Calcutta. That and this were, and I wrote in pieces, because those times, I was sitting in the back of a car some days, running air conditioned because of mosquitoes. ICU does not give you good treatment. They take care of the patients, but the attenders get a little bit of challenging treatment. I think some of us can relate to that. Right? You get a small chair outside because they will call you at any point in time. So we were always on the edge. So some of the stories I wrote like that, and sitting on the car, my brother would be watching some Netflix in the front seat, and I would be sitting in the back seat opening my laptop and writing. There's no power to charge. So a lot of struggles. Rains. That year it rained more than anything else in Chennai. So my mother passed in the peak of a very powerful, strong rainy season. So all of that, it was like as if the book had to go through that, the flashy cinematic journey that you can imagine. You can imagine the scene, right? Flash light, you're sitting in the car, trying to put the car light on, running the AC because you can't go out, mosquitoes. Then you are waiting, looking at keeping one eye on the on the door. The nurse would call you or not. So that's how the 4 months went. Okay, and here I would say that I wouldn't have done that without Srihari, who is here. Srihari and Srihari and Mahesh were my partners. Took on the workload that I was. This was pre-KVS days, and which is my venture capital firm. All of that contributed to this book. There are some unsaid contributions. I can talk on and on. My brother, who sat near me, and who we switched between cars, his car and my car, to charge the laptop and the phone. I wrote in phones also. So some of these. So that's my family. My father had already gone, so so this was that time. And Shweta, just when I was just coming out of it, Shweta lost her father. So, and then when we really combined forces, and she took a long break. I never seen her gone so quiet. And it was like I lost somebody because many times we lean on each other to move some of the stories forward. I throw a question to her, she comes back, and that silence was deafening. Okay, and so this book, at the core of it, carries our pain of our loss of our parents. So that is what this book started with. So some of the stories you may read, you may see the traces of those pain. So if that has diluted in any sense the real story, I would apologize for that. Then Falguni, then we had this very young editor, because we wanted a Gen Z version of editing, because I think we both belong to a generation, we believe, and we share more or less similar beliefs. And because we had contributed on the creative side, we needed somebody who looked at the book differently. So that is why she's a third member. She's in Bombay. She's now a very accomplished editor, in her own right. So again, she was one of the fan of my writing. So obviously, you have to lean on. It's like we are a family. Next set of books, we are a team and a family. So I would thank Falguni, who's not here. But we plan to host again a small bookstop in Mumbai, especially thanking her. So she did a great job, and it took a year to edit this book, and we wanted to be sure that we didn't, today I think with this ultra-sensitive society, we wanted to, taper down some of the languages, some of the questions we needed to reinterpret, and write again some of the scenes. So we went through all that. Then my wife and my son are not here. They are in Chennai. So we said we will do a Chennai edition. So they couldn't travel here because of a pure scheduling issue. And again, I thank them for their support. My extended family, my mother-in-law and my nephews and nieces, some of them are the people that you want the book. Sometimes you think that they can read the book. That's a very bold endeavor. But I've got a couple of broody guys who will probably understand what I've written. So I believe that they will also someday turn to this book. My father, my father-in-law, and my Shweta's father, who I believe have blessed us from the heavens when the book was made. We miss them and we thank them again. Then my mother-in-law, who is very deeply, she's, I think she's always Ramayana, okay. And believe me, I want her not to read the book, okay, because her belief in the God is, on Ram and Shiva are so much that any alternate interpretation is trouble for me, especially being the mother-in-law, right? So that is double trouble for me. So I think I'll softly read to her and see how that will be one of my life's bucket list, that this book I would read and see if I can survive that day. So there's some more thrill left in this book, that's it. Then I have one more dear friend, Priya Patel, who is in Texas. She, when I was down and Shweta wasn't available, we wrote a book together, which is again on the anvil. She is a poet, a very deep poet. She is a master of melancholy. That's what we talk. And so all these subjects is anyway melancholic. So it was easy for her to we do poetry tangos. So we have written some of the pains that we shared during the period. So I thank her as well. And most importantly, I thank all of you, who have made us count at least for the next couple of hours. I hope we bring some justice to your sacrifice of your busy day, especially on Shankranti. So thank you, all of you, for making it here. And then finally, Notion Press, our publishers. We went to 12 traditional publishers. This year was about discovering the publishing world. Okay, and we have our own stories to tell, ma'am. We would agree, right, Shweta? And we have tons of stories, and how the publishing world works. I will write a book about that one day. Okay, that will be my first non-fiction. Yeah. And again, like any industry, like venture capital, publishing industries also, there are the high tables where you can't get in. And there are celebrities. There are I know you, you know me, relationships. And if it's, we believe that we have done a good work, but of course, if the author doesn't feel that, who else will, right? So we all have felt that our book deserves a proper hearing, at least, if not anything. And then when you get a mail from a Gen Z, I'm not blaming, pardon that, Gen Z is in the room, pardon me, but when you guys come back and say this book is not fitting our, when you get that mail, then you say, okay, fine, thank you. Then somebody has to, but this book deserved its place, is what we feel, right, Shweta? And therefore, we said we will go ahead with somebody who will not question us. So, Falguni was our last, I would say, line of defense, in terms of interpretation. Then we were convinced that the stories were good, so then we started our publishing journey. So it took us, Notion Press wasn't also easy. We learnt our own, they were good as long as we were paying them without questions, but when we went to actual demand of quality, then we also, had our share of music, their music. Okay. Now, that's as far as the acknowledgements are concerned. Then about the book itself, okay. Some of the points Shweta has already covered. Okay, we started with a story called "Chink in the Armor." Okay, now this story was about what is the one thing that made Ravan what he is. The antagonist of Ramayana, right? Villain is a too strong a word in my view. If you are a real, if you read and today though there are people who make, especially in the place where I come from, Ravan is celebrated. Okay, South India, Tamil, so that trend happens. So anti-heroes become heroes these days. But we didn't want to do that. So our book started with a question. Okay, what made Ravan an antagonist? What was that one quality? Was his philandering? Was his what else? Philandering is not the only answer because he didn't really mess with Sita. Okay, there was a I would put it this way. He had kept her hostage. He's a villain of first order. I'm not questioning that, but there was a line he did not cross. Okay, now, but was that his only problem? No, we stepped back and saw. He was consumed by something which was larger than that one problem, and it goes back to how he treated the god of his heart, Shiva. Okay, then that is when the question happened. And he has dealt like that with even Bali. He lost only 2 battles in his life before Ram. Okay, one was Kartavirya Arjuna, 1000 Sahasrabahu, and Bali, right? And Bali actually toyed with him. Okay, Bali has his super strength. So so what made him take up these challenges? So if you look at all of that, and then how does, and I wanted this from Ravana's mouth, and anybody will probably speak the truth in his end of his life, the last piece. So that is the scene that we set up, and this had to be heard by somebody who is not big enough but young enough to learn. So we put Lakshman in the scene. Okay, so we needed a student for that situation, and a person who probably still figuring out his own life. Lakshman was still young, probably sub-20s, trying to figure out life. He's married but confused, angry, impatient, all the qualities of Sheshnak. So we put him as the student, and Ravan expressing his views of life, and then Ram, the sagacious guy he is, he saw even the good in Ravan. He had to kill Ravan, so it was his duty. So it was more of his karma and dharma that he treated everything like that. If you look at, it is very hard to be. Why he is called Maryada Purushottam is another topic for another day. Okay, but I think being a what you call unattached hero is a big thing. You'll find all heroes of today very passionate, attached to stuff. And he was that one hero that you will not find in any history, that he is unattached. Okay, and that is why he has taken those decisions of, even though if you go back to some of the stories which follow, you'll find that consistently it displays that quality. Okay, so that is when Chink in the Armor came. So the answer was vanity, ahankar. Okay, when ahankar consumes, you think you can do almost everything. You can get away with, Sitaharan. Okay, you think you can defeat Bali. You think you can go after Shiva. Okay, the Marudeshwar story. Okay, you can take on Parvati. So there are a lot of stories of Ravan. If you go back, it connects to only one point, and he doesn't listen to Mandodari. Okay, so there are he's got all the best advice in the world. There is no way you can deny that. But still, if there was one thing that was stopping him from good decisions, that one good thing, let go of Sita. Who didn't tell him? Everybody. Indrajit told him during his last day. Vibhishan tells him. Kumbhakarna also questions him in a way only he can question. But still, he does not give up. Why did he not give up Sita? Simple. It was his vanity. That vanity was that one quality that answered all the questions, and then that word comes from his mouth and he dies. That was the story. And when Shweta looked at that story, okay, then she said that we are on. So somewhere we both got that, okay, now we are seeing answers to some of the questions that we have tried to discuss and answer some of those questions. That's how it started. Then the last story I wrote was Final Redemption, which I wrote 3 years later, again thanks to Shweta, because she said, "Bas book thoda halka lag raha hai, thoda bada karo." It started like that. But then we are looking at serious stories. Then Ahalya. Now Ahalya is again a very tough character. Not many people know that she is a heroine in her own right. Again, a lot of people have written that, especially Sai Swarup Iyer, some of them have written, Karol Das Gupta, when they are writing about, the hero, the women of epics, Indian epics. So I would thank them for, inspiring in a way to bring Ahalya out. And Ahalya is a Brahmavadini. Okay, so there were 3 Brahmavadinis in the history. Gargi, and then the third one. Okay, so and she learned by listening to the conversations and debates that happened in the court of Janaka in Mithila. So the world's knowledge, the wisdom epicenter that those days were Janaka. Janaka is called the wisest king. I think he's a sage. You got to go back and read. And the preceptor of Mithila University, you want to call that, was Gautama, sage Gautama, Rishi Gautama. So and to put her there and then bring Indra out, and then when we wanted to create an antagonist, because I always have, personally I don't like Indra, as I wrote the stories, and kabhi to kahin par lagana tha, so it was my turn, so I brought Kaush, and then was looking for an opportunity, then Vishwamitra came to my rescue. So they both, if you read the story, it's a parallel narration of Vishwamitra's journey with Indra and Ahalya's journey with Indra, or whatever Indra did. And the climax is that the redemption happens in a way that Indra gets his punishment in a very different way, both by Ram actually releasing Ahalya from her curse, and that ends Vishwamitra's journey as a rishi that he was, and then he goes back to a more quieter life, put it that way. When we debated, ma'am had a view on that Ramayana moved forward from there, and therefore we don't know much of Vishwamitra, but I believe that that was one of his greatest acts by bringing Ram there, and it was in a sense a vindication of that Indra cannot get away easily. So villains always have their I think there is karma catches up in a way. So most of the stories that I would come are basically exploration of unintended consequences of some of the stories, and some of the things are simple questions that we would debate in a coffee shop. So I'm not diluting the magnitude of the epic here, but we are all lesser. Our knowledge of the epic, the wisdom that we is limited to our own exploration. I would put it that way. So this book had to end somewhere. The story had to be born somewhere. So this book had to end somewhere, the stories had to be born somewhere, and therefore, some of the decisions were, okay, this logic works, okay, this interpretation works, okay. This book is about interpretation of some of the situations and characters, okay, put it that way. So it's a salami slicing of some of the questions that we have had, and it does not reflect the sagacity of Valmiki Ramayana or Pratidhvani's Ramayana. It is a very limited, humble interpretation of our little intellect, and the idea was that the book is not an exact retelling; it is an exploration, which carried the pain. Put it that way, combining these two. Then there are other stories like Indrajit. We picked up Indrajit. Nobody talks Indrajit. Indrajit is known to be a very tricky character. Then I went to ChatGPT and put this question: who is the greatest archer of them all? I chose 4 or 5 characters: Shiva, Ram, Arjun, Karna, and Indrajit. Okay, the answer stunned me. ChatGPT is supposed to be not wise, but it gives an interpretation. And the answer surprised me. Shiva emerged as the best archer because, which is one of my favorite stories, which is Tripurantaka story. Okay, and nobody can do that because every other, including Narayana, became a contribution to that victory of Shiva, and the choice was difficult because it was a universal, it's one of the toughest victories that a god could achieve. So and ChatGPT picked up those stories that you normally can't put together, and then came to that. Indrajit, keeping Ram and Ram being God, divine himself, keeping the Shiva and Ram aside, Indrajit emerged the most powerful because Lakshmana couldn't have killed him on a one-to-one battle without disabling Indrajit, and it was again a journey of difficult times. Then I went back. Then Lakshmana had a backstory. Okay, all of us know that Lakshmana is an avatar of Sheshnag. So and then there was this. We made a very interesting connection that Indrajit hurts Sheshnag in his eyes. Okay, through a sword, which is Shiva's sword, and Sheshnag for a moment loses his one eye for a minute and then comes back because they all self-heal. And this is Indrajit saying that for every eye I have, you will have somebody who does not wink for 14 years. Lakshmana did not wink one second, one moment to protect Ram and Sita. Okay, and that makes Lakshmana, it puts him in a different league. Imagine what sort of God you want, who stands on your door, till the last moment. Okay, so if you read Lakshmana as a story, a character across stories, you see.
Book.
Huh?
He could be a separate book.
He could be a separate book. And we said, so these were the discoveries we made as we wrote. Okay, and interpreting Sheshnag's curse to Lakshmana's life, and then but I want again I'm a little melancholy, a bit of melancholy was needed. So we structured the story in a way that it is Indrajit's last day. So the curse is twofold. It is not one-fold. You'll be killed by Lakshmana. You'll be killed by me. Okay. What happens is the moment he gives away Sulochana to Indrajit, after the Kanyadam Chota, the curse follows. Okay, that is when he is broken. Right, it starts from there. the day you will do this puja to Nikumbala Devi, that is when that moment when you call upon that one God, your most powerful deity is your most. You attacked me when I was in the most vulnerable position. My daughter is standing in front of you, and Sulochana has her own journey. She will marry the first person she sees. Complications. All these are threads when they come together, and the beauty of the story was that all these threads were coming together at that point in time, and then a father in front of a very very haughty warrior who is demanding Sulochana's hand, and he's already injured in one eye, and then the daughter is saying, "I'll marry this guy." So imagine a setting like that. Okay, he's nice. He plays the beautiful father, and he hands over the daughter. He gives the hand, and then the curse follows. The curse is twofold. The first is, remember that you put me in a vulnerable moment. The same moment will come to you. And that moment is when you are worshipping your favorite God. And that moment when you question your life is when I will come and disrupt you. Okay, so it is a curse of equal proportions. It's a heartfelt curse. Then the second part. The second question which comes is the 14-14, the 14 eyes, 7 heads, 14 eyes, 14 years of not winking. That's one connect we made. Okay, and again these are our limited interpretations. So just to make the story, it is not. You will not find this in Valmiki. I'll be honest. Okay, and then the other part is that that is the day you will also be declared traitor by your father. Ravana Indrajit conversation. Indrajit knows that day will be his last day as he wakes up. Okay, and he knows. Imagine a situation where this curse is going to happen, and then he goes to his father and says, "Boss, give away Sita," and that is his last honest attempt. It is not because I will lose. It is because you will die. Why don't you give up? We all will be peaceful, we'll go back to our lives. Because Sulochana at that point in time Sulochana does not meet Ravana at all. This is again an interesting interpretation. She is keeping her line very clear. They don't meet. She doesn't want to go before Ravana. So those sort of little interpretations you're seeing, and these are from Valmiki Ramayana. Again, limited interpretation. Okay. But when you come to this, you see that a guy who is and their love is, the love story of Sulochana and Indrajit is again a different story to tell. You can write an epic on that. And you imagine yourself, your father is calling you the traitor. You are going to die. You've beaten Lakshmana 3 times in a row. And the third day you are going to war. You've done Nagabhashan and then Sanjeevani thing. They are coming alive. So that news shocks him the morning. That night he thought it done and won, and everybody had a celebration. Next day morning, you find the guys are back. That day is the day that he had to do the puja. So he decides he goes and does the puja. So that sort of, and we have tried to put ourselves in Indrajit's shoes and walk the last day. How would that happen? Then Sampati also a similar story. Sampati is a true. That's one story I would say. I have kind of thanks to Valmiki's brilliant. I'm telling you, Valmiki's 2 slokas took me 10 pages to write. His unpacking shlokas in Ramayana is so deep, and you read because I know bit of Sanskrit, but you read the English interpretation, go back and find that word, and then you think, and then you think, and then you think, and you find that you unpack and put the scene in front of you. You need so many words to write the scene. But Valmiki captures it in 2 words. And this is structured meter, rhyme, all of that. If you look at Valmiki's work as poetry first, is what I would say. Read Ramayana, the original Ramayana, if you have, use English or whatever language you want to interpret. But my lesson that day was, boss, I will one day sit and read the entire Ramayana for its poetic, excellence, rather than storytelling or Ram. That day I made that note. See, these are my humble learnings from the book. So the journey unpacks like that. Then Indrajit ka to likh liya. I wrote about Indrajit. Why not about Ram? Ram's last day has been interpreted in many ways. Okay, but again we felt, if I were Ram, not that I would be any day, but it's very easy to imagine when you think, the visualization becomes easier. So we went back there. So the story starts. This is the last story of the book, so he is like wakes up, but he's not. That day had to be different, right? If Ram being what he is, that day has to be different. It can't be the same morning. So it had to be different. So the story starts from there. How he feels. He gets this little bit of like a little bit of story. Your AI thing or whatever you call that. He gets these little glimpses of Vaikunda, Lakshmi. So those feelings start coming back to him. Okay, and that is when he is kind of transitioning into a. So that is a fictional addition, but that made sense to us. And then we follow largely the story of how he, goes into Sarayu and then he goes away. I have used Yama as his, messenger to Vaikund because he is the god of death. At the same time, he is also the god of Dharma. So Ram being the epitome of Dharma, I think that made sense. That I think he takes him along to the last mile of his journey, and I cried that day because I didn't want Ram to go away. To write a story like that and then leave the next day for me was difficult. Believe me, I cried that night, and I didn't want Ram to go. So that's how that. It comes from because you tried to, be as close as to him, and he's going in your own world, and that felt very hard. That was my hardest moment to write in the book. Okay. Then but if you see along the stories we have tried to characterize Ram or Lakshman, people who pan stories. 13 stories are there. We have tried to question these characters, Ram, Lakshman, who jump from stories to stories. One thing stayed with me about Ram. Okay. What again the same question like Ravan I had to ask, what was the one thing about Ram that you would still consider, we say he's human, we say he's God, today is a war cry, Jai Shri Ram, Har Har Mahadev, so war cry, and people who don't even know who is Mahadev and Ram use him 1,000 times a day. Maybe they are blessed, more blessed. Okay, but here is the point where I reach, and that is actually when Shanta was born. I put it that way to answer the question. I had to write a story about this, and I had to hide this somewhere at the core of it and answer all the questions that I had about Ram. Tough questions. Why did he send Sita out, a pregnant wife? How can a husband do that? Can a husband of today do that? Can a husband of, the weight of king versus husband? It's a tough. These questions again, right from the day Valmiki wrote this till date, and this book is published, and probably many thousand years this question will be asked. This is an unending question. Of course, there are wiser interpretations, but I have tried to answer that question. I leave it at that. But coming to the one thing that I felt Ram stood apart, in my own, limited wisdom, limited knowledge, or limited exploration. It's a finite exploration. Is that and the Maryada Purushottam Ram? What is Maryada? What is Purushottam? Why you are calling him as Purushottam? is Maryada. Maryada is a word that is externalized. Okay. It is what we call him. He never considered himself as Maryada. He lived his life to his beliefs. Okay. He knew that he had to follow a path and he followed it at all costs. But he was not devoid of love. He was not devoid of parent, his emotions as a son or a father or a husband. And I got the answer in a very different place. There's a Tyagaraja Kirtana called, it's sung beautifully by Balamurali Krishna. I'll share that. Share that. It's like Oka Banamu. I don't have the full verse again. Oka Banamu, Oka Matalu. So one arrow, one word. So Ram is one arrow. When he fires an arrow, it hits his target. Period. He's never wasted an arrow, right from the day he took the weapon till his last day. Second is his word. So for me, that caught me. How do you consider a person great? Leave Ram. We went to that question. If I say something and I stand by it, no matter what, I make a commitment, I promise, and I stick to it, no matter what. Okay. Don't go into the interpretation of it. That is when trust comes. When the word and the deed match all one's life. Ram has never, in my exploration, not a word that he has said, not a deed he has done, are different. That is what Okamatalu means. Okay, that is one word he says, it is as good as done. There's nothing called I will do. It's done. That is the promise he keeps. And every time he knows as a god that when he fired that arrow on Bali, okay, and that is again an interpretation you try to come up with here in another story. He will bear the consequences as Krishna. The Bali, that is the karma link that Ram has. Okay. And then, why would somebody send, what sort of guy would send his wife out when, to a place, to the furthest of, places, however safe she is away from him? Because a pregnant wife the most important person for a wife would be her husband, isn't it? And these two are epitome of love. I mean, Ram Sita, we can talk on and on and on. Given the history of love, given the, given that they have fought and recovered and then, just about starting a life, it is the hardest situation anybody can imagine. Put yourself. I mean, I have gone through that myself. And I know how, what a cropper I turned up in that situation. So I am an abysmal failure in the same situation. Okay. So answers came like that. I am zero and he is there. Okay. For him to take that decision, Raj Dharma, what Vajpayee said to, whoever he said to. Okay. It is the hardest thing to hold on to. My word to my subjects as a king, as a man, when I say a word, I will do that. So my word, over. That's how he ends the conversation with Shanta. The only person who would have questioned him in a hypothetical situation again. So these situations were created to get those answers. So Ram is Maryada Purushottam because of Okamatalu. Is one word. Warrior to, I told that's why I did that analysis of 5 people. Nowhere could I find another character in the entire history of Purana, everything. Okay, that is why Shiva says, Rama Rama Rameti, Rame Rame Manorame, Sahasra Nama Tatulyam, Rama Nama Varaname. Okay, that is 1,000 words of Vishnu is one time of Ram. And that carries weight. And Vishnu is the original guy in the Vaikundam. This guy is a human avatar. So to get that power in the name is that one word. That one word is if I tell something, I will do it. It is done. That is why he is called Maryada Purushottam. That was my conclusion. Okay. This book was that exploration. When I hit that point, I felt I was liberated. Mera mukti ho gaya. I got my mukti because finally understood Ram. If I had read Valmiki, if I had read Kirtibas Ramayana, which I leaned on these two books, enough to write my book. I'm not saying I've done justice to either of them, but this was my liberation of, my redemption of writing the book. Okay, and I would end here in terms of talking about the book. I think this book packs stories that is limited by our curiosity, exploration, and wisdom. But again, it is an attempt, and I think the better part of the attempt, which was like first draft to what it is today, is thanks to Shweta, and her wisdom is amazing. And I would thank Hitesh and Umisha for their support, and ma'am, for you also, all your wisdom, and people above, all of them, father, mother, father-in-law, everybody, my father-in-law, so it is definitely, I would say, a journey which is culminated today. And even today, the excellence that you see here is thanks to Shweta. Okay, I just put that one poster and video, and then I did the social media. So that is what I do. I've done in this book. This book wouldn't have been possible without Shweta. Okay, thank you.
Your book. Thank you, Ashok. That was quite deep, emotional, and salami slicing of the book, indeed. So, now that you know a bit about this book and Ramayana, and I assume you're a little enlightened, we have this quiz about the book and the Ramayana, and just to test how much in the listening mode you all were. And then we have certain gifts, and each gift has certain message for you for 2026. So are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So Umi, are you ready? So you'll have to check whoever raises the hand first. Okay. It's quite easy. Okay.
Come here.
Come. So you have to check whoever raises the hand first, and with each correct answer, you know what you have to do, right? So you have to give gift. Okay. You can come here. Check. You want to go down every time, or you can just stand here. Okay. So you'll have to raise your hand. Whoever raises their hand first will get the chance to answer. Okay. So, which dynasty or Vansa did Lord Rama belong?
Chandra dynasty.
No.
Suryavanshi.
No, he's a bunch. What was the name of his dynasty?
Raghuvanshi.
Ikshvaku.
Yeah, she got that answer.
Actually, all of them are there.
All of them are down. No, he was not Chandravanshi.
Chandravanshi, no, but
Suryavanshi,
Suryavanshi,
yeah.
Ikshvaku,
So, Ishwaku was the first king of that dynasty, and we have a wonderful relation between the Jainism and the Ishwaku dynasty also. That is for some other day. Okay. So, again, the next question is, what was the name of the forest where Rama, Sita and Lakshman spent the majority of their exile? Dandakaranya. It's Karanya's forest. And we had a discussion over Dandakaranya also. Okay, so another question, very very easy. Which demon at Ravana's request took the form of a golden deer to lure Rama away from Sita?
Marich.
Yes. Okay. The fourth question. Jatayu, the vulture who tried to save Sita from Ravana, was the son of whom? Whose son was Jatayu?
Son?
Closely related,
Closely
but not
related.
son.
You should hold on your partner.
Text मेरा phone no? Text करो.
So it is very, very close to sun, but not sun.
Yeah.
The chariot of
Indra.
the charioteer of Surya.
Arun.
Who'll pack you? You
No,
already
I said Arun.
Okay, you already got answer. Okay, okay.
That's good. Not easy.
So my batchmates are shining. And the report will go to ma'am. Okay. Now this answer, you've already replied. So I'll just skip this. And if you don't have more questions, I'll come to that question. So we know that Sita was wife of Ram and Urmila was wife of Lakshmana. How many of you know who was the wife of Bharat?
Shrutkirti.
Mandavi.
There's so many games.
Shrutkirti.
Mandavi.
Shatrughan.
Mandavi.
Thank you.
So, you have mentioned about King Janaka, Sage Janaka. You have mentioned about his courtroom also. Do we know what was his real name? The Janaka was the name.
It's a title.
Is a title. What was the real name of Janaka, father of Sita? Okay, nobody? Yeah?
Siradhvaj.
Shiradhvaj, yes. I did not want to judge this, but
No, that's okay.
no, but since you have answered, yeah.
His younger brother was Kushathwaj.
Kushadhwaj. Kushadhwaj was father of Mandavi.
अभी तो बुक पढ़ोगे ना.
अभी तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा.
अभी तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा. So thank you for your participation, and I guess the energy has little shifted, and now comes the moment for which we all are here. So shall we? Yeah. Oh, bring the book. I would request both my mothers to please join us. One my mother, one my mother-in-law.
I'm not supposed to.
Give it to
Give it to ma'am. खोलना है.
आप आगे आइए
ना पे आगे.
Would you like to join?
Hitesh, come.
So nice, thank you. I was waiting because Bachelor'S wife, who is the Bachelor?
Hey,
Thank you so
Srihari,
much.
come. Come. I'm not supposed to.
Give it to
Give it to ma'am. खोलना है.
आप आगे आइए
ना पे आगे.
Would you like to join?
Hitesh, come.
So nice, thank you. I was waiting because Bachelor'S wife, who is the Bachelor?
Hey,
Thank you so
Srihari,
much.
come.
Actually can't because we went through 3 sets of research and 5 sets of editing and so on and so forth, and then around 6 months of publisher hunting.
I will write a book on publishing. We'll discuss that.
Let us now hear from our guest, Mrs. Anuradha Goyal. She's an author, a speaker, and founder of Indie Tales. India's leading bilingual cultural travel platform, where she chronicles her journey across the globe through evocative storytelling, podcast, videos with special emphasis on India's living heritage and sacred geography. She is a former IT and innovation professional who co-authored the accomplished India Innovate series for CII and wrote the bestseller The Mouse Charmer, Digital Pioneer of India in 2014. Anuradha made a decisive shift from corporate to full-time exploration on indie knowledge. She is regarded as one of India's most authoritative voices on temple heritage and yatra traditions. She curated and spearheaded India's first Indie Yatra conference to revive country's pilgrimage culture and serves as visiting faculty at Bharat Adhyan Kendra, Banaras Hindu University, where she researches and teaches on civilizational framework of Indian pilgrimages. Anuradha writes a popular column from New Indian Express and is frequent on Indian podcasts. Through her books, talks and travels, Anuradha's larger vision is to reimagine the contemporary future deeply rooted in India's timeless wisdom traditions. Ma'am, we welcome you all. Please share your pearls of knowledge.
I think I need the.
You need the mic? There's one here.
Namaskara, very happy Sankranti and Jai Shri Ram. So let me also share my personal journey with Shri Ram. So I happened to be in Ayodhya by chance. I ran a popular travel blog. I was invited by UP Tourism to visit some of their locations. One of the options they gave was Ayodhya. Nobody chose it. This was 2015 or 16. The temple was nowhere in sight. For some reason, I said I will go. And when I went there, we first landed at Guptar Ghat, which is where Shri Ram left his body. And from there, we took a boat, and Ayodhya emerged in front of me from the waters of Saryu. I still clearly, vividly remember how Ayodhya emerged, and that was my beginning of my long-term relationship with the city. So one of my reels went viral on the day of the Pran Pratishtha, where on a very popular podcast I had shared about my first instance of visiting Shri Ram in tent, which was extremely emotional, Anyway, when I was returning from visiting the Janmabhoomi, anyway, UP Tourism had said you can't visit Janmabhoomi. But as I sat down to have my lunch in an ashram, and then my body touched the dharti of Ayodhya, I said I can't go back without visiting the Janmabhoomi. There were a lot of practical issues, but I said it's okay, you leave me here, I'll make my way back home, it doesn't matter. And with a lot of negotiations, I went there, I came back, and I was a transformed person. I came back, I couldn't see anything. And at that point in time, you had to walk through a lot of gullies to reach the place and pass through the most stringent security check ever. So I went there and came back, and I had this resolve that I have to do something for Ayodhya and Shri Ram. I had no idea what, but I said I have to do something. And from there it began, and in next 3 years or so, 2018, Ayodhya Shodh Sansthan invited me to come and study Ayodhya and work on Ayodhya. So I studied Ayodhya Mahatmya from Skanda Puran, which is like the Lonely Planet or the Wikipedia of its times, which documents different places. So I studied all of that, and I made a long list of places to be seen in or to be explored in Ayodhya, which had nothing then. 2008, the judgment for the construction of temple came in 2019. 2018, Ayodhya did not even have a hotel. I had to stay in Faizabad in a hotel with a few rats running around. That was the status. And I used to get up at 4 in the morning, go to Saryu, walk through the lanes, walk through everything, rediscovered everything, but thankfully I rediscovered almost everything. Almost every kund, every tirtha mentioned was there. This is 2018. I recreated a map of Ayodhya. I wrote a book called Ayodhya Mahatme, and I started a very systematic study of Indian scriptures, and I started with Goswami Tulsidas's Ramcharitmanas, which is the easiest text to read. And then of course later I would read Valmiki Ramayana, and in between a lot of Devi texts and lot of other Puranas and Upanishads. And I started teaching them also, and I started discovering a lot of Yatra traditions. A lot of things happened, but in the process I discovered that Sri Ram is not just a god as we treat. He's probably, he is our ancestor for most of us. Half of us would trace our lineage to Surya Vansh, at least I do, and so he becomes our ancestor, and in a way he becomes our Kuladevta. And in the same way, today is the day of sun, the day sun is moving northwards, because he descends from sun. He descends from the Vaivasvat Manu, who's the current Manu, from sun. So we are all Suryavanshi that way. And so when you start looking at somebody as your ancestor, your whole relationship changes. You don't see him as some king who lived at some point in time somewhere. He becomes somebody whose genes and blood are within me. And when you read the Upanishads and when you read a lot of Tantra texts, you also realize that the sun within us is in the navel chakra. This chakra, which is the solar plexus, the Surya chakra. And the Bij mantra associated with it is Ram. So when you chant Ram, Ram, it becomes the Bij mantra Ram, 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 Ram. And if this is in place, your whole life is in place. Lot of Ayurveda and ancient people will tell you, if this solar plexus is in place, your life is balanced, because this is the center of you, Nabhi. Lot of tirthas are called Nabhi tirthas because they assume that this is the center, and if the center is in control, everything else is in control. So anyway, this became, I got to do a lot of work with Ayodhya. The last day when Sri Ram was in tent is when I was there with the likes of Narendra Kohli ji, who's written a lot about Ramayana. He passed away a little later. I have not been there since the new temple has come up, but it will happen when he wishes. On the day of consecration, a lot of people asked me, why are you not there? Honestly, I didn't want to be there because I was happy. I wanted to see him in temple. He's in temple. I'm okay. I can go around and do the next set of work that he allocates to me, or he directs to me. So that's my journey with it. I have also written a book which is called How to Read Indian Scriptures. I was never trained in reading this. I have never read languages. Forget about Sanskrit. An IT professional, all we knew was, science and computer science and, a few modern jargon-filled models and frameworks. But when I read scriptures, I figured out that there is so much coded knowledge. Even when you read Valmiki Ramayana, the story part is maybe 20-30%, not more than that, 15 to 20%. And that story more or less we all know. We may not know small bits here and there, but more or less we know the story. We know that he's going to go to forest, we know Sita is going to get abducted, we know Ravan is going to get killed. So what is there in the rest 70-80% is what is most important. Just this morning I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and it says that the Veda Vyas, when he created these scriptures, he knew that a generation will come which will not be able to understand Vedas, which will not be able to understand Upanishads. So he put all this knowledge in the story form in Mahabharata and in Ramayana. And Valmiki put it in Ramayana. So it is the essence of that knowledge. But even within the story format, there is a lot of internal change that we have to do, especially those of us who have studied in the formal education, very, very disconnected from cultural education. People who did not even know, what are the 7 ragas or what are the 7 types of temple architecture, or what are the kinds of art forms, 64 art forms. We don't know any of that. For us, it becomes even more difficult. But having said that, coming back to Ramayana, you can think of, I was as part of my assignment with Ayodhya Shodh Sansthan, I was part of a project called Global Encyclopedia of Ramayana, where people from 140 countries were trying to document how Ramayana is in their region. So in India, we had every region which was documenting, and in 140 countries, the story of Ramayana has traveled in some form. Somewhere drama, somewhere dance drama, somewhere sculpture, somewhere some character has taken a life. Like in a country like Honduras, Hanuman becomes the biggest charming character. Somewhere else, somewhere Vali becomes an important character. But the story remains there. The story has carried. It has become the biggest culture carrier for India. The India's culture has traveled with the story of Ramayana. And that's when I realized that, Ramayana is a product which is at least 7,000 years old. So if in the terms of venture capitalists we say, today we create a product which doesn't even last 10, 20, 30 years. We hardly have brands which have lasted more than 100 years. This is one product and brand which has lasted at least 7,000 years, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. Even if you look at it from that perspective. And its variations have come, it has inspired authors, dancers, playwrights, all kinds of performing arts, painters, everybody. It has inspired, but the original product never lost its sheen. So in my book, How to Read Indian Scriptures, I highly, highly recommend that you read original. You can read interpretations, you can read retellings, but the original product is a longest standing cultural product ever in this world. That is the importance of Ramayana. Now, when you read Ramayana, it's a voluminous work, 24,000 verses. When you read a book, the author and the reader meet at an intersection. And this is true for any book. That's why when you read a book after a few years, you see it differently because you've moved on as a reader. The book may have remained the same. So when people read Ramayana, they connect with something. It could be an episode, it could be a character, and it could be some questions which have been left unanswered. जिनका उत्तर नहीं दिया गया. और उत्तर क्यों नहीं दिया गया? Because the book is called Ramayana, Rama's Ayana. So the protagonist is Ram, and every other character makes an appearance only with reference to his story. So in the Valmiki Ramayana also, Sita comes only when she gets married to Sri Ram, or when she recalls her childhood to, incidentally, to Ravan. And once she goes away from Ayodhya, she's not mentioned. In the Uttarkand, which I seriously believe is not a part of original Ramayana, just from the language, the way it is written, and from many other perspectives, because the Falashruti is given at the end of Yuddhakand by Valmiki. Once the Falashruti is given, the Granth is over. So Uttarkand is a later edition, but even if we assume that it was there, Sita's exile is mentioned in maybe 5 verses or 6 verses out of 300 pages that my version of book has. It's mentioned in less than half a page or maybe half a page. So that's the importance. Just like in our lives, we intersect with a lot of people, and if there is something significant happens, it goes into my biography. Like today we are meeting. I don't know if and when we'll meet tomorrow, we'll meet ever again, but today we have intersected. Our lives have intersected. If something significant happens, it will get into our personal memoirs. If it doesn't happen, it will just pass by. Similarly, in Ramayana, the characters come, they play a role in Rama's story, and they go on. Now, why do we read retellings then? Now, coming to this book, I've read half of it, maybe 3-4 stories. Now, this retelling, I'll tell you what it taught me. The first story, Ahilya's story. I have read the story many times, multiple versions, but I did not connect Vishwamitra and Ahilya. I did not connect that both of them lost their tapasya due to Indra's intervention, due to Indra's insecurity. Indra got insecure because of both of them. For one, he lusted, for the other, he got insecure because of his tapasya. Being a faithful wife, being a faithful spouse, to put it more politically correct today, is a tapasya in itself, and which is what Ahilya lost. Vishwamitra lost his thousands of years of tapasya. So he could connect to the pain of Ahilya. That's what I learnt from your retelling, so thank you. From their retelling about connecting Vali's Vad and Shri Krishna's Vad, I also, it sometimes extends your thought. So how it extended my thought, I connected that Bali was a reincarnation of Indra and Sugriv was a reincarnation of Surya. In Ramayana, Surya killed Indra, or Surya became the reason. In fact, he got killed also by a Suryavanshi. So Surya killed Indra. In Mahabharata, it happened the other way around. Arjun killed Karan. Arjun was the reincarnation of Indra and Karan was the reincarnation of Surya. So those kind of karma balancing is seen across these two epics. So I extended your thought from that, right? Now, when I was reading Shanta's story, Shanta gets a very passing mention in at the beginning of Valmiki Ramayana. But I'm assuming it's somewhere you have picked up the story. There I felt sometimes, so first of all, keep in mind that Valmiki Ramayana is something that has stood the test of time. So there must be something which is eternally true in it, something Sanatan in it has to be there. Otherwise, at some point in time, it would have failed. Even the Mughals got it translated because they saw some value in it. So when we read a text which has stood the test of time for at least 7,000 years, if not more, and we apply our current day problems to it, that's one approach. You say, when it was written, there was a concept of a society and a community. Today we are going more towards individualism. So it's all about my pain, my this, my right, my emotions. It's not about everybody else. But when it was written, it was, if 4 people benefit out of my sacrifice, I will sacrifice. And it's not that we don't sacrifice today. How many of you are originally from Bangalore? 1 person, right? 1, 2, 3 person, right? At some point in time, each of us made a sacrifice of our families, our hometowns, to come and be a professional in this city, right? Because we valued profession more than we valued our hometowns or our families. We made that sacrifice. But does it feel like a sacrifice? Does it ever feel like a sacrifice? Yes or no? No. Why? It is a sacrifice, and as you grow old, you realize it's a sacrifice.
For a better cause.
Right?
For a better cause we sacrifice.
For a better cause. So when Shanta makes a sacrifice, why do we choose to look at it only as her sacrifice and not her willing sacrifice for a larger cause? Right? So we all do that, but somehow the media narratives tell us that you have to be so individualistic that nobody else matters. It's all about my time, my choice, my this, my that. If all of us start doing that, you'll go to the doctor tomorrow and he'll say, it's me time, sorry. You are in an emergency situation, it's me time. Go away. You sit in the plane and the pilot, what is actually happening? The pilot says, me time. I don't feel like my emotions are not allowing me to fly a plane. That's not how society is. And then you can, if you really want to lead that life, then please go and be a tapasvi, be on your own. Even tapasvis need society's help. They cannot do tapasya without somebody feeding them, without somebody supporting them on so many fronts. So, the reason I'm telling you this is that when you read something which has seen eons, which has seen eras, which has seen us at the lowest as Indians and us at the peak of a civilization which everybody wanted to be a part of or wanted a slice of, we should see what can I learn from it? How can I use it to make my life better? How can I use it to make my society better? Rather than saying, oh, that character must have suffered and nobody looked at her. I can tell you from what I understand of Sri Ram and Sita, and from a very cyclic, karmic point of view, and it's very logical. Where does Sita go? Finally, where does Sita go? She goes in the Prithvi. Right? She goes. She's called Dharti Putri. One of her names is Avani, which means the daughter of the earth. She came from earth. She went back to earth. When we die, we say Panch Bhut mein sama gaye. We were created out of Panch Bhutas. We went back to Panch Bhutas. Sri Ram came from Vaikuntha. He went back to Vaikuntha. So wherever we have come from, we have to go back. Now we can, intellectually we can do a lot of interpretation of Ravan, Sri Ram. But the basic fact is that anything that has taken birth has to die. So Ravan has to have a reason to die. So he was closing all possible avenues for his death. So the Devatas had to put together something so that he dies. That's one eternal rule, that anything that has taken birth is not complete. The only thing that is complete is that superconsciousness which we call Brahman. And anything that has taken birth must go back. Now if you are being stubborn and you say, I won't go back, then nature will find a way. It happened to Hiranyakashipu. He tried his own ways. There are people, Mahishasur said, no man can kill me. So they created a woman. Somebody said, ye nahi ho sakta. They created a Brahmaramba. They created a bumblebee who will kill you. So the nature will find a way. But this is an eternal truth that anything that has taken birth must die. Right? So, do I have more time or is it? Okay. So that is one of my learnings. It is not necessary to project the problems of our age onto older stories, but to derive strength and lessons from them which can solve our problems. Right? Now, for example, in the whole of Valmiki Ramayana, Sita only speaks at 3 times. Substantially, chota mota chhod ke 3 times. First time she speaks is when she negotiates with Sri Ram to go to the forest. He comes and he has actually taken a decision that you will not go. He actually tells her, you take care of my mothers, you do this, you do that, be nice to Bharat because he's going to be the king and it's not good to be in the bad books of the king. Don't abuse him because I am gone or he's the reason of my going. He never said you come with me. But her negotiation You read those 1 or 2 chapters where she negotiates, a lesson in negotiation skills and commitment. Whatever she committed, she said, I am not going to ask for anything. I am not going to complain. And for 14 years, she didn't complain. Lesson in negotiation. But that's a very good and very logical points. In a very mild tone, she tells him that, he says, you can stay comfortably in the palace. And she says, do you think people who have thrown you out on the day of your coronation, they're going to let me live peacefully? Now, is that not an argument that you and I would give to our husband if we are in the same situation? जिसने तुमको निकाल दिया वो मुझे जीने देंगे क्या? Very, very logical, very basic arguments. He tries to scare her. वहाँ जंगल में जानवर होंगे, जंतु होंगे, खाना मिलेगा, नहीं मिलेगा, कंदमूल मिलेंगे, पैर में जूते नहीं. She said, I will endure all that. I will eat after you have eaten and whatever is left. But I am not going to stay here. Second dialogue she has with Ravan. When he's come to pick her up and he's still in his sage garb. That's when she retells her childhood and her wedding, and she says, she kind of nostalgically says, I was the princess of Mithila, I was the queen of Ayodhya, and look at it, I'm here. And I'm looking forward to going back because 1 year is left. 13 years are over, 1 year is left. So I'm looking forward to going. See, there's a huge dialogue in which she gives a lot of backstory, her own backstory. And that's where we get the ages also. At what age did they get married? At what age did they get exiled? And the third and the most famous dialogue is the one which she has with Hanuman. Very human dialogue. I'm talking about Valmiki Ramayana. Other Ramayans, they're reinterpretations. Very, very human dialogue. You have been abducted. Now there's another guy who has come. You don't know if you trust him or not. There is no way for me to figure out if I should trust him or not. So she kind of oscillates between trusting and not trusting. It is so human, and I can literally see that if I am ever in a situation like this, these are exactly the thoughts I would have. He says, come sit on my back, I'll take you. And she doesn't know. She says, who knows, this may be another of Mayas of Ravan. He tells her story, gives the ring, she builds the trust, but then she also thinks that if I go with him, Ravan is not going to die. And that's the purpose of Ram. So let Ram come, then I will go. And then she gives I found a very strong glimpse of Draupadi in her. Where she says, tell him how miserable I am. Tell him what her commitment comes. In all our Shastras, husband and wife are never treated as two people. One of the reasons we impose a lot of these modern day things is that we think of ourselves as two individuals. So if Ram ka Rajyabhishek hua, Sita ka Rajyabhishek bhi hua. It may have been called Ram Rajyabhishek, but he did not sit on the throne alone. He cannot sit on the throne alone. He cannot be a king if he is not married, because he is not complete. A beautiful tantra description of Shiva and Shakti is like a chana, where there are two halves covered with a covering, but it's called one chana. Similarly, the husband and wife are one unit. So whether you do something, whether one person does something, how you manage things between you is your teamwork. Shastra said something should be led by husband, something should be led by wife, but that's basically aligning with the nature of a male and a female DNA or body or the physiology or what socially was also, a lot of social conventions also stepped in, but that was it. There are people where women chose to go out and do things. The story of Savitri Satyavan comes. There are a lot of stories come. But as a general rule, in Dharma Shastras also, they say in some things the husband takes the lead, in other things the wife takes the lead. But whatever each of them do, it belongs to both of them. If they earn punya, it belongs to both of them. If they earn pap, it belongs to both of them. If they earn money, it belongs to both of them. If they get fame, it belongs to both of them. And the reverse also. If they suffer misery, they both suffer. So they were never ever seen as two. They were always seen as one unit. The moment you start seeing yourself as two, one against the other, then it's a different way of organizing the society. So with that, the 2 or 3 stories that I read in this book, they helped me push my thoughts. So please read. I'm sure it will help you push your thoughts. But at the same time, like he also said, do read original Ramayana. Read all possible scriptures that you can, but since you won't have so much time, energy, Ramayana is very easy to read. Valmiki Ramayana even, and if possible, read it in your mother tongue. Try not to read it in English because a lot of essence of words is lost. Lot of words that we naturally understand in our own native languages, and all Indian languages are subset of each other or in a subset of Sanskrit. So try and read in your mother tongue, whatever mother tongue you speak. Valmiki Ramayan's translations are very easily available, free of cost, copyright free. So just go and read them, and also read these reinterpretations, which will make you think about people who may not have been given that much focus in Ramayana, because that's the story of Sri Ram and not the story of any other character. So other characters only come at that intersection, right? Great. Thank you. And with that, thank you Shweta and Ashok ji for making me a part of this book and making me a part of this event. May you write a lot more books. May you have the blessings of Sri Ram and other devatas to do their work, to take their story to Gen Zs, as you say.
Truly, truly enlightening. And as you truly said, Ramayana is written through Ram's eye, Ram's point of view. And it also talks about Maryada of Ram, Maryada of Lakshman as brother, Maryada of Hanuman as Sevak. Who was he? He was Shivansh. He was Ansh of Shiv. He could have killed and ended the entire Ramayana with a twist of his Brikuti. But he was a Sevak. He was in role of a Sevak. And then comes Sita, Maryada of a wife, Maryada of a princess. So, thank you for that.
Add kar sakti hu?
Yeah.
So when I first read Ramcharitmanas, the thing that hit me the most was the framework of Ram Rajya. And in that Ram Rajya, it says how the it's a long talk. If you want, it's somewhere on YouTube, I'll share. But it says in one word that everybody should follow their Varna Ashram Dharma. You should not do what others are supposed to do. And that's exactly what Hanumanji does. He does what he's supposed to do and not what Sri Ram is supposed to do. Today we try to do everybody else's work. Even when, so for example, today a bank is trying to sell insurance, is trying to sell this, They've forgotten banking and they're trying to do everything else. And in the process, everything is lost.
Another wonderful thing that I have learned from you is sacrifice. Not all sacrifices are loud, and not all sacrifices are celebrated. There are some which needs to be retold, and hence this book. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for taking out your precious time for this book and for us. And before you leave, you have the high tea ready. Please take your time and be comfortable. Thank you again. And do write, this is a very, very selfish request. So when you have done reading this book, do comment on Amazon, Goodreads, Google, wherever you can. In person also, what you like, what you felt uncomfortable reading, what more you would want to read in other books. So, thank you. Thank you.
I look outside.
Your coffee is here.